Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron for the New Order as Iberia. Let's continue on from where we last left off. So we are getting a brand new Cadillo. It is Centennial's first day, 14-day focus, not too bad. So, apparently also like a research we can go for. I mean, it's 1968, so you know what, support weapons 4 or 6, whatever it is, seems decent enough. Like, it doesn't really make a, I'm making tactical bombers? No, you're strategic. Strategic and bombers and tactical bombers are two different things. There we go. So I guess we'll like build that for now. Like, it doesn't really matter so much. We'll also upgrade our anti-tank weapons as well. But again, at this point, I really don't think we'll be going to war at all. Like, I don't know who we would go to war with. I mean, the only other option I can think of is maybe like Italy, but that seems still to me unlikely to happen. Okay, let's go for tour of Iberia. Kanto's first day. Following the grand inauguration, Kanto quickly delved into administrative work, attempting to gain an even clearer picture of the situation Iberia was finding itself in. Knowing the problems facing regional representation, he recognized his own important role, not just as a competent figurehead or competent replacement for Salazar, but also being a figurehead of Portuguese interest in the Union. He was also able to integrate himself effectively with the members of both the Legislative and Advisory Council. Kanto figured that despite their seemingly lack of power in opposing a deal of decision-making, that they were still extremely important in the process of smooth governance. If an issue were to divide the two dictators, it would also help to gain their support to overwhelm Franco's arguments. The first day was over, a flurry of meetings and paperwork to establish authority behind closed doors of government in the same way his inauguration had cemented his standing on the international stage through thorough press coverage. A small rest for a new office finally allowed him to clear his mind slightly. He looked out at the grand windows of the bustling Madrid, still heaving with activity despite the late hour. Pleased that he could now begin to shape the direction of the Union he would take it in the future, he smiled happily. Important work had to be done, and he was preparing for it. We get a little bit more political power again, even though we don't need it. I mean, we have 550. Do we need political power? I would go so far as to say no, not really. Like, what can we even spend it on? If you had stability, we could try to fight black market activity, but other than that, like, there's nothing I can spend these points on. Like, there's just nothing. We got planes in reserve. But again, we're not at war, so I mean, it doesn't really matter what these planes are doing. And our manpower, okay, manpower is low. You know, the game's not lying about that, but again, like, I don't think it's incredibly important. I mean, actually, we are modified at 35% because of poverty, traditional roles. Our federal army is still absolutely garbage. I don't know if we'll ever actually be able to fix that. Okay, tour of Iberia. Let's make some new appointments. Touring Iberia. Population centers from all over the half peninsula were surprised. Okay, let me just read that over again. Population centers all over the half peninsula were surprised by the unannounced visits of the new Portuguese Cadillo, Kanto, as he was making his way around his realm. Only briefly notifying his Spanish counterparts, Kanto shortly after establishing the bureaucratic framework for administration, he set on a tour of Iberia. It was necessary to gain a more complete picture of the average life, to assess the extent of the divisions were politically unstable for the nation. On one of the stops he made was in the border city of Badajoz, situated on the left bank of the Gata River, extremely close to the unofficial Portuguese border. Kanto's motorcade drove through the city, making a stop in the Bull Ring, a site where, according to regime dissidents, the Spanish nationalists had murdered hundreds of Republicans. Choosing to only take a small security detail, Kanto made his way around the streets on foot. He was recognized very quickly and crowds began to form, following his walk and cheering him. Once he was at the town hall, he requested a desk to be brought out, which he sat behind. Motioning to the onlookers to come forward, he instructed his security detail to pick out a number of individuals to line up in front of his new desk. He then began to question them in a friendly manner, taking the time to get to know each of the ones picked. Listening to their concerns, he made a few notes and he asked for the personal opinions on the regime. As no one answered openly, he again wrote down a few notes and then made his way back to the Bill Ring. Newspapers around the country began to follow his journey, documenting each visit and guessing where he would turn up next. Dubbing the events Kanto's Grand Tour, it quickly went down into Iberian consciousness. So we get a little bit more stability, which is nice, again, because if we want to fight black market corruption, we do need to be up to 50%. I mean, I know our stability is still, like, not fantastic. I mean, even though Iberia is still... Serbia goes into isolation. I mean, that's fine, I think, for you, Serbia. You're not going into the Italian or the German spheres. But with Iberia being kind of like even though it's relatively stable, even though it's mishmashy, right? So it's understandable that things won't be the most like the most stable, even in the best of times. We're at 38%. Do you give me any bonuses? No, you're just going to give us an event. And we removed the national speeder, clean the bureaucracy. Which I'm not too sure exactly what that did. If it did anything at all, actually. We might be getting slightly more manpower, but I can't really tell. I might be wrong on that. So, is there any actual conflicts going in the world? Velta defeated the Aryan Brotherhood in a war. You're the person who's like for some reason stuck in Africa Shield. We'll see if they eventually just annex this entire region. Because I think soon enough all of these people will start going to war with one another as well. So it'll be kind of interesting to see who ends up winning out in Russia. For the good of the Union. It almost felt like continuity. Okay. It almost felt like continuity. That was the beauty of effective reform. In the critical eye of the public, Querido Kanto was already taking great efforts to ease his transition to power without hitches. His numerous visits and attempts to understand the mood and problems of locals around the Union had given him an impetus to carry forth his ideas and display them proudly to the various councils and to his Spanish counterpart. It was not his will that he was representing, but that of the Iberian people. Not only had he effectively positioned himself in a new role, so the general population supported him, but he also had managed his staff and administration well. This had given him the support of many in the civil service. He now stood at a pinnacle. Admired by many and without the ruinous taint of scandal, Kanto was positioned to the unifying, stabilizing figure of Iberian politics. His reluctance to immerse himself in the cheap power politicking that Salzi and Franco had been engaged in was refreshing to some of those in higher office. Seeing a change and trying to gain relative gains over one another to continue working for the absolute gain of the Union, made Kanto one of the first true Iberians. Not a Portuguese nationalist, but a product of the ongoing integration between two historic nations. Under his rule, the future began to look a little bit brighter. More stability, more political power, which again we don't really need. And assuming at some point we'll also we'll get a new focus tree. I'm hoping so. Because if you, I mean, here, like the weird thing with you is that you don't really want to go to war with anybody because I mean you're in Africa Shield. You have 6 to 10 divisions. I mean you could probably like pick these guys apart one at a time, but it'd be very, very difficult for you to actually do that. And actually, the funny thing is, like, if Vyatka ever actually manages to, let's say, unite this entire area, these guys down here will actually probably send troops up here to fight the other Russians. Which is strange, and shouldn't really be the case. Like what are you just like a, the rifle A? Okay, apologies in the cut in the video. Apparently, my microphone just decided to unplug itself. Always great. At least I only lost, like, I think a minute of content, so it's not that bad, all things considered. I was really worried that I lost the entire episode. I had to start from scratch, but luckily, I didn't. Also, I might have just started it from here anyways, so I'm a lazy fuck. The standard keyboard. And this is where you'll be working, said Joey, as he set his finger down on a dusty typewriter on a tiny desk in a tiny office. Weekly reports Friday morning, so you expect to have it done by Thursday afternoon. The old guy Carlos nodded and shuffled around his things out of his briefcase. It was his first day working in Porto at the regional office of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. In Joan's opinion, he seemed decent enough, even for a Spaniard transfer from Madrid, that he was a glistening and spoke of Portuguese weighed in his favor. Joao was about to leave when another glance at the typewriter reminded him of something critical. Carlos, do you know how to type H-C-E-S-A-R? H what? said the Glycine, bewildered. His new boss sighed. A keyboard on a typewriter. In Spain, use QWERTY. Here we use Hexgar. So you gotta learn how to type and start over. And no, I'm not getting you a Spanish typewriter unless you want to take it up with the acquisitions. Now look, I'll teach you the important things. You notice there's no key for number 1, you have to use a lowercase L for that. There's also no 0, you have to use an uppercase O. For asterisks, you type lowercase x and backspace, then a plus sign over it. And then for the manual, who designed this keyboard? This is absolutely terrible. Then for number sign, you just the way sands flew all over the typewriter, manually setting the cartridge to 2 type slashes. Carlos nodded slowly. In 1937, Salazar personally mandated H. Caesar as the Portuguese typing format, and life scorned any attempt at establishing an Iberian standard unless it meant excar for all. After Salazar's passing with the expanded federal bureaucracy, the government was beginning to discuss the problem. Yeah, no, like that seems absolutely dreadful. Okay, you've been re-elected Prime Minister of England. So you oh, the United Kingdom exists now. Welcome, UK. I guess Scotland decided to join your union, and you're also in the Organization for Unions, free nations. Yeah, I mean Germany's looking pretty powerful. Japan's looking pretty powerful as well. Africa Shield. I mean, again, they have you technically, but I guess I mean, it would be kind of funny if you annexed all these people. And again, like these guys should start to declare war on one another. I would imagine so. Okay, let's first talk to the separatist. I mean, they're done in 5 days. He's actually finished like really quickly. Separatist. I mean, actually, do you all finish? I mean, 21 days. Okay, you get a little bit longer, but all these are actually done like 25 days, which is actually like the length of like one normal focus. So it's pretty decent. All things considered, a new beginning. Finally, the puzzle pieces were beginning to fall into place. A dissatisfied heiress to a minor noble family was no formal way of escaping her trapped existence. A former anarchist who had replaced her trappings of ideology with those of love, and finally a group of relocating freedom fighters. Initially, the ultimate question remained even with the acquisition of the anarchist testimonies. He confirmed that the servant worked undercover for the anarchist cell while he worked for the noble family. But where were they? Had the pair moved into the cell with Asturias? Had they been hidden somewhere else entirely? If they had met with the anarchists in Barcelona, why would they have continued moving further once the servant had left the organization, as the anarchists relayed information during his interrogation? It was already put to a great distance between the former reality the two wanted to escape. The inspector began to look through his files again, this time taking great pains to pursue the money which had been withdrawn multiple times from the girl's account. He did not get a particularly large and out-of-place sum, and moves his attention towards getting better insight into the property market of Barcelona. After a few months of anonymous calls and information per usual, he finally had triangulated a small apartment which matched both time frame and withdrawal amount. He had found them. A chance at redemption. Oh, that was completely. That's a spy. Like, okay, not a spy. The inspector. The regional debate. Perhaps the most contentious issue in the process is the process of separatism. Basque, Galician, Catalan, etc. all have made claims for nationhood and sometimes use violence as a means to achieve their goals. The history of this issue is seemingly everlasting and has been ingrained beneath the very skin of Iberia. Many have died fighting for and against the ideas of separatism, but a radical option is paying heed to separatists now available. So 2 is the option to shut them down once again. On one hand, listening to separatists and giving them a real special region program would allow for the future of Iberia to remain stable on a whole in the end. Terrorism would hopefully eventually cease, and the needs for these people will be placated within the deal that we can hopefully achieve with them. On the other hand, giving any sort of leniency to demand may set off dominoes and foresee the balkanization of Iberia. Whatever decision we make, we are bound to upset someone, but we must do whatever best for the future of Iberia. I think we want to. Well, we'll listen to the regions for sure. Technocrats they're like the reformers, I believe. I don't know why they call it the technocrats. I mean, I'm assuming that's an actual term that means something. Okay, placate the separatist. It once seemed like a pipe dream that the Candidos would even consider notions of regionalism in the nation of Iberia, or even in the previous nations of Spain and Portugal. Time and time again, the despots, the monarchs, and the governors of Iberia's past had ruthlessly crushed any separatist dreams. In response, separatists turned to political ways. Politics by way of the gun and seemingly everlasting cycle of violence began to grip Iberia. Now, however, the cycle may just start to crumble. The promise of listening to the regionals and considering their demands for a real special region program, separatist movements have now been forced to take the process seriously. A real breakthrough may arise from this. It has been enough to make any hardline separatist zealots think twice about any would-be terrorist attack. While the issue is certainly not to be put bed, a clear expression of confidence in the process has been given by the separatists. By proxy, this means that some confidence has also been given to this governance. However, the decision may come at a cost. There are many in Iberia who would rather die than see the nation break apart into pieces. Indeed, some may believe that this olive branch of separatism will hasten this. Of course, there's nothing but delusions of staunch paranoia, but we must be wary. Not only you have the separatists, but also those in our own government as well. The Territorial Democratic is getting a little bit more popular. Talk to the technocrats. Let's talk to the conservatives. I mean, we have to talk to everybody eventually, so it doesn't really matter which order we go in, to be honest. But the process chugging along, the technocrats aligned with the Opus Dei organization have set out a plea wishing for further involvement in the process, believing that the process apparently needs a qualified voice to speak on certain matters. They have sent a number of proposals that they seek to bring to the table. One proposal they were particularly pushing is the improvement of civil liberties in Iberia for Iberians. On the outset, these proposals seem all well and good, but God knows what these people are truly after. One thing this process cannot allow is for the fifth column to arise once again. It occurred once before, and it took the strength of the entire nation in a sea of blood to stop the fifth column antagonist. That being said, it could be worth placating these people if we are to embark on real reform in Iberia. These technocrats could certainly prove to be a key part of the process if we are able to take them. Again, I think, I mean, our stability is already pretty good. We'll definitely get the technocrats on side because they are the reformist faction. The conservatives, we might kind of want to slowly kind of push them out a little bit. But the Opus Dei's involvement in the process, the dynamics of Iberian political society has clearly changed. Socioeconomic liberalism has seemingly been given the all clear. Now the floodgates are open for the rest of the Opus Dei's proposals. This isn't to take Opus Dei and their opinions as no cause of shortage for hoo-ha among the more conservative sections of Iberian political society. This matters little, though, for the process requires the means of all qualified voices in Iberia. The Opus Dei are to be welcome on board and bring hopeful, healthy element to the Congress. The Opus Dei have, of course, been nothing but grateful for the opportunity provided to them by the Iberian government. This gratefulness has been showcased by their entrenchment of support for not only the process, but also for the government as well. The technocrats have certainly have to prove their usefulness, as the Congress will soon evolve into more crucial stages. If, in any case, it is hoped that the technocrats the technocrat expressors will bring something new and fresh to the table. We've got the military, the people, the final debate. That's what that. Let's go to the people. I mean, the people of Iberia seem like they'd be pretty important. Those whom are defined as conservatives in our political establishment have rather loudly raised their voice of concern at the speed of reforms that have grasped Iberian political society. Writing to the cathedrals personally, the head honchos of the old guard stated clearly and concisively their anxieties towards what is currently taking place in the nation. Believing that the breakneck reformation will allow for the scourge of liberalism or even worse communism to once again flow into Iberia. The old guard conservatives have written a rather impassioned plea that also states that the change that is occurring on all fronts threaten not only the political existence of our regime, but also the very future of Iberia. We write as a collective to give you our genuine advice that this process may very well destroy everything we have worked so hard to build. This process could also lead to a catastrophic turn of events that would tear Iberia apart from the inside. Please do not let this happen. A stirring letter may have been, but we hold the real power in Iberia, and we choose to dismiss the concerns of these Vitites if need be. Honestly, I think we just kind of ignore what they have to say, because who cares what they have to say? Okay, so you're now at war with Biscaria. I mean, because you can't really force them to lead their faction with Africa's shield. The mutterings of disapproval. With our blatant disregard for the conservatives, quite frankly, in our eyes unfounded notions, we have received no further written letters begging us for us to listen to the old guard. Nor have we also been sent any letter decrying what we have betrayed the very ideals Iberia and its governance is built on, or any other such rubbish. These men know better than to further display challenge to our authority. It was ourselves, after all, who stopped the renegade phalange some time ago. That doesn't mean that they will not scheme against us. These dinosaurs of yesteryear may not look like much, but they are heavily experienced in the political game. Some noise is likely to be created amongst the most zealot and hardline of the faction, but the rest will likely bide their time, waiting for an opportunity to trample on the process. It's quite likely that we will not be able to heavily rely upon the conservatives, as their support for the process dips from their lack of faith in us. Whether this vitriol will remain the tantrous old men or morph into something far more insidious and dangerous remains to be seen. What is known, however, is that the old guard are not happy and will likely not take this decision lying down. At the 5% stability lost. Okay, that's actually quite a bit. But it's good to know. Apparently there's also 1% support for the Burgundian system in Iberia. But I do think, at least for right now, this is probably going to be a good time for us to end this episode. So thanks everybody for watching. If you've enjoyed, give me a thumbs up. Not do it, thumbs down. If you want to see more, subscribe, and goodbye.